Chapter 1. The calm before the storm. The sun was just beginning to rise over the bustling city of Sao Paulo, casting a golden hue over the skyline. Inside the headquarters of LuminaTech, a full-service event production company, the open-plan office was already alive with activity. The hum of computers, the clatter of keyboards, and the occasional burst of laughter filled the air. The team was preparing for one of their biggest projects yet, a high-profile corporate event for a global tech giant, set to take place in 3 days. The event would feature a massive LED wall, intricate lighting designs, and a live global broadcast. The pressure was on, but the team was confident, until a single mistake threatened to unravel everything. At the center of the room, Clara, the project manager, was pacing back and forth, her tablet in hand. Her sharp eyes scanned the room, ensuring everyone was on track. Clara was the backbone of the team, known for her meticulous attention to detail and her ability to keep everyone calm under pressure. But today, even she seemed on edge. "Where's the final layout for the LED wall?" she called out, her voice cutting through the noise. "Right here," came the reply from Marco, the lead technician. Marco was the kind of guy who could fix anything with a roll of duct tape and a smile. He was hunched over his desk, surrounded by cables and blueprints, just double-checking the connections. "We don't want any surprises during the show." "Good," Clara said, nodding. "And the lighting cues? Sophia, are we set?" Sophia, the lighting designer, looked up from her laptop. Her fiery red hair was tied back in a messy bun, and her glasses were perched precariously on the edge of her nose. "Almost done. I'm syncing the cues with the video team now. It's going to be stunning, trust me." "Trust is all we've got right now," Clara muttered under her breath. She turned to the far corner of the room, where Daniel, the video editor, was sitting. Daniel was the quiet one, always lost in his world of screens and timelines. "Daniel, how's the promo video coming along?" Daniel didn't look up. "It's done. Just rendering the final version. Should be ready in an hour." Clara sighed in relief. "Good. Let's keep it tight, people. We've got no room for errors." But as the team worked, a sense of unease lingered in the air. Unbeknownst to them, a critical mistake had already been made. The subtle mistake. In the corner of the room, Lucas, the newest member of the team, was quietly reviewing the event schedule. Lucas was young and eager to prove himself, but his inexperience often led to oversights. Earlier that morning, he had been tasked with confirming the delivery of the LED panels. The supplier had sent an email with the updated delivery time, but Lucas, overwhelmed by the flood of messages in his inbox, had missed it. Now, as the team continued their preparations, the LED panels, the centerpiece of the entire event, were sitting in a warehouse across town, with no one aware that they wouldn't arrive on time. The first signs of trouble. As the day wore on, Clara's phone buzzed incessantly. Emails from the client, updates from the venue, and last-minute requests kept her busy. She glanced at the clock. It was already 3 p.m. "Marco, have you heard from the delivery team?" she asked, her voice tinged with concern. Marco frowned. "Not yet. I'll give them a call." He dialed the number, but after a few rings, his expression darkened. No answer. That's weird. Clara's stomach churned. "Try again. We need those panels by tomorrow at the latest." As Marco redialed, Lucas shifted uncomfortably in his seat. He had a sinking feeling in his chest, but couldn't bring himself to speak up. The revelation. By 5 p.m., the team was growing restless. Clara's patience was wearing thin. "Marco, any update?" Marco shook his head. Still no answer. "I'll try the supplier directly." As he made the call, Lucas finally mustered the courage to speak. Clara? I think I might have missed something." All eyes turned to him. Clara's gaze was sharp. "What do you mean?" Lucas swallowed hard. The supplier sent an email this morning about a delay. I didn't see it until now. The room fell silent. Clara's face turned pale. What kind of delay? 2 days, Lucas whispered. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. 2 days. The event was in 3. The fallout. Clara slammed her hand on the table. This is unacceptable. Do you have any idea what this means? We're dead in the water without those panels. Lucas shrunk back, his face red with shame. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Sorry doesn't fix this. Clara snapped. She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. We need a solution, and we need it now. Marco stepped in, his voice calm but firm. Let's not panic. We'll figure this out. Lucas, forward me the email. I'll see if I can negotiate with the supplier. Sophia chimed in, her tone optimistic. Maybe we can rearrange the setup? Use fewer panels. Daniel, who had been silent until now, spoke up. Or we can adjust the video content to fit what we have. Clara nodded, her mind racing. All right, everyone, let's brainstorm. We've got one night to fix this. The hook. As the team huddled together, the weight of the situation pressed down on them. The clock was ticking, and the stakes were higher than ever. But amidst the tension, a glimmer of hope remained. They were a team, and together, they had faced impossible odds before. But as the night deepened, a new problem emerged. One that would test their unity like never before. Chapter 2. The Domino Effect. The office was now bathed in the harsh glow of fluorescent lights as the team worked late into the night. The initial panic had subsided, replaced by a tense focus. Clara had divided the team into smaller groups to tackle different aspects of the crisis. Marco was on the phone with the supplier. Sophia was reworking the lighting design, and Daniel was adjusting the video content. Lucas, still visibly shaken, was tasked with coordinating backup plans. The air was thick with the smell of coffee and the sound of keyboards clattering. But just as they thought they were making progress, another problem emerged, one that threatened to derail their efforts entirely. Marco hung up the phone, his face grim. Bad news. The supplier can't expedite the delivery. The panels are stuck in customs. Clara clenched her fists. Customs? How did that happen? Lucas hesitated before speaking. I think I forgot to include some of the paperwork when I confirmed the order. The room erupted in frustration. Sophia threw her hands up. Are you kidding me? This is a disaster. Daniel, usually the quiet one, slammed his laptop shut. We're running out of time. If we don't get those panels, the entire event is ruined. Clara took a deep breath, trying to keep her composure. Everyone, calm down. Freaking out won't solve anything. Lucas, get on the phone with customs and figure out what's missing. Marco, see if we can source panels from another supplier. Sophia, keep working on the lighting adjustments. Daniel, I need you to start prepping alternative content in case we can't get the panels at all. The team nodded, though the tension was palpable. As they returned to their tasks, Clara pulled Lucas aside. Look, I know you're new, but this is a big mistake. You need to own it and fix it. Understand? Lucas nodded, his face pale. I'll do whatever it takes. The subtle shift. As the night wore on, the team began to make progress. Marco managed to find a local supplier who could provide a limited number of panels, though they were more expensive and not as high quality. Sophia reworked the lighting design to compensate for the smaller LED wall, and Daniel created a backup video that could be used if necessary. But just as they were starting to feel hopeful, Sophia noticed something strange on her monitor. Guys, I think we have another problem. Clara rushed over. What is it? Sophia pointed to the screen. The lighting software is glitching. It's not syncing with the video cues properly. Daniel frowned. That's impossible. I tested it earlier. Well, it's not working now, Sophia snapped. Clara rubbed her temples. All right, let's not point fingers. Daniel, can you check the software? Sophia, see if there's a workaround. The new problem. As Daniel and Sophia worked on the software issue, Marco returned with an update. I've got good news and bad news. The good news is the local supplier can deliver the panels tomorrow. The bad news is they're charging us double. Clara groaned. We don't have a choice. We'll have to eat the cost. What about customs? Lucas, who had been on the phone for hours, finally hung up. I think I've got it sorted. They're releasing the panels, but it's going to take another day. Clara nodded. All right, so we'll use the local panels for now and switch to the originals once they arrive. It's not ideal, but it's the best we can do. The growing tension. As the team continued to work, the stress began to take its toll. Sophia and Daniel were arguing over the software glitch. Marco was frustrated with the supplier's high costs, and Lucas was barely holding it together. Clara, meanwhile, was trying to keep everyone focused, but even she was starting to crack. Enough! She finally shouted, silencing the room. We're all tired, but we need to keep it together. This event is too important to screw up. Now let's take a break, get some air, and come back with fresh eyes. The team reluctantly agreed, stepping out of the office one by one. As they stood outside, the cool night air helped clear their heads. The hook. As the team regrouped, Clara noticed something unusual. A strange van had pulled up outside the office, and two men were unloading equipment. She frowned. Who ordered that? No one answered. The men approached the door, carrying a large crate. Delivery for LuminaTech, one of them said. Clara's heart sank. We didn't order anything. The man checked his clipboard. Says here you did. Paid in full, too. As the team exchanged confused glances, Clara realized they were facing a new mystery. One that could either save them or make everything worse. Chapter 3. The Mysterious Delivery. The team stood frozen in the doorway, staring at the two men unloading the mysterious crate. The van's headlights cast long shadows across the pavement, and the faint hum of the city at night provided an eerie backdrop. Clara's mind raced as she tried to make sense of the situation. Who had ordered this delivery? And what was inside the crate? The team exchanged uneasy glances, their exhaustion momentarily forgotten as curiosity and suspicion took hold. Clara stepped forward, her voice firm. Hold on, we didn't order anything. Who sent this? The deliverman shrugged, holding out a clipboard. Says, here it's for LuminaTech. Paid in full, like I said. You want it or not? Marco stepped in, his tone calm but cautious. Let's take a look first. Open it up. The deliverman exchanged a glance with his partner, then shrugged again. All right, but you're signing for it either way. As they pried open the crate, the team gathered around, their breaths held. Inside was a state-of-the-art LED panel, one of the exact models they had been waiting for. Sophia's eyes widened. Is that? It's the panel, Marco confirmed, his voice tinged with disbelief. But how? Clara turned to Lucas, her expression sharp. Did you order this? Lucas shook his head vigorously. No, I swear. I didn't even know this was possible. Daniel, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. Maybe it's a mistake. Or a prank. Clara frowned. A prank? With equipment this expensive? I don't think so. The investigation begins. As the delivery men left, the team dragged the crate inside. Clara immediately got on the phone with the supplier, but they denied sending the panel. We're still stuck in customs, the representative said. No idea where that came from. Marco examined the panel closely. It's genuine, all right, and it's brand new. Someone went to a lot of trouble to get this to us. Sophia crossed her arms. Yeah, but who? And why? Clara's mind raced. All right, let's not look a gift horse in the mouth. We need this panel, and it's here. Let's get it set up and figure out the rest later." The team agreed, though the mystery lingered in the air like a thick fog. The subtle clue, as they worked to integrate the new panel into their setup, Lucas noticed something unusual. Taped to the back of the panel was a small envelope. Guys, you might want to see this." Clara took the envelope and opened it carefully. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a handwritten note. "You're welcome. A friend." The team stared at the note, their confusion deepening. Who the hell is a friend? Sophia asked, her voice tinged with suspicion. Marco frowned. "Someone who knows we're in trouble. But how?" Clara's eyes narrowed. "This doesn't feel right. We need to figure out who sent this before we use it." The ticking clock. As the team debated what to do, Daniel checked the time. "We've got less than 48 hours until the event. If we don't use this panel, we're back to square one." Clara sighed, torn between caution and necessity. "All right, here's the plan. We'll use the panel, but we'll keep an eye out for anything suspicious." Marco, double-check the wiring. Sophia, test the software integration. Daniel, monitor the video feed. Lucas, you're with me. We're going to dig into this mystery. The team nodded, though the tension was palpable. As they returned to their tasks, Clara couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The hook. Just as the team began to make progress, the lights in the office flickered, the computers froze, and the LED panel went dark. "What the hell?" Marco exclaimed, rushing to check the power supply. Clara's heart raced as she glanced out the window. Across the street, a shadowy figure stood under a street lamp, watching the office. Before she could point it out, the figure turned and disappeared into the night. Chapter 4. The Shadow in the Night. The office was plunged into darkness, save for the faint glow of emergency exit signs. The sudden power outage had left the team disoriented and on edge. Clara's heart pounded as she rushed to the window, but the shadowy figure was gone. The city outside seemed eerily quiet, as if holding its breath. The team gathered in the center of the room, their faces illuminated by the faint light of their phones. The mysterious LED panel sat silently in its crate, now a symbol of both hope and suspicion. "Everyone okay?" Clara asked, her voice steady despite the tension. Marco nodded, already pulling out a flashlight. "Yeah, but what the hell just happened?" Sophia hugged her arms tightly. First a mysterious delivery, now a power outage. This is starting to feel like a bad horror movie. Daniel, ever the pragmatist, was already checking the circuit breaker. "It's not just us. The whole building's out." Lucas, still visibly shaken, spoke up. "Do you think it's connected? To the panel, I mean." Clara frowned. "I don't know, but we can't take any chances." Marco, can you check the panel? Make sure it's not, I don't know, rigged or something. Marco nodded, grabbing his tools. On it. As Marco worked, Clara pulled out her phone and dialed the building manager. "Hi, it's Clara from LuminaTech. Do you know what's going on with the power?" The manager's voice crackled through the phone. "Sorry, Clara. We're looking into it. Might be a grid issue. Should be back soon." Clara sighed. "Thanks. Let us know if you hear anything." The investigation deepens. As the team waited for the power to return, Clara turned to Lucas. "You said you didn't order the panel, but is there anyone who might have done it for you? A friend, maybe?" Lucas shook his head. "I don't have any friends who could afford something like this. And even if I did, why wouldn't they just tell me?" Clara's eyes narrowed. "What about rivals? Anyone who might want to mess with us?" Sophia chimed in. "You think this is sabotage? Like, someone's trying to ruin the event?" "It's possible," Clara admitted. "But why send us the panel, then cut the power? It doesn't make sense." Marco, who had been inspecting the panel, called out, "Guys, you need to see this." The team gathered around as Marco pointed to a small, almost imperceptible device attached to the back of the panel. This isn't part of the standard setup. It looks like some kind of transmitter. Clara's stomach churned. Can you remove it? Marco hesitated. I can try, but if it's rigged to do something, pulling it out might trigger it. The tension rises. The team exchanged uneasy glances. The clock was ticking, and the stakes were higher than ever. Clara took a deep breath, trying to steady her nerves. All right, here's what we're going to do. Marco, see if you can disable the device without setting it off. Sophia, keep working on the lighting design. Use your laptop battery for now. Daniel, start prepping the backup video. Lucas, you're with me. We're going to figure out who's behind this. As the team sprang into action, the office felt like a pressure cooker, ready to burst. The subtle clue, while Clara and Lucas searched through emails and invoices for any clues, Lucas suddenly froze. Wait a minute, this email, it's from an address I don't recognize, but it's marked as urgent. Clara leaned over his shoulder. What does it say? Lucas opened the email, his hands trembling. It's just one line. The panel is a gift. Use it wisely. Clara's eyes narrowed. That's it. No signature, no explanation. Lucas shook his head. Nothing. But look at the timestamp. It was sent an hour before the delivery arrived. Clara's mind raced. Whoever sent this email knew about their problem before they did. But how? The hook. Just as Clara was about to reply to the email, the lights flickered back on. The computers booted up, and the LED panel hummed to life. But before anyone could celebrate, Marco shouted, "Wait, don't touch anything." The team froze as Marco pointed to the panel. The transmitter was blinking rapidly, emitting a faint beeping sound. Clara's heart sank. What's happening? Marco's face was pale. I think it's counting down. Chapter 5. The Countdown and the Digital Maze. The room, once a sanctuary of creativity, now pulsed with the coldness of a crisis command center. The LED panel, once a beacon of innovation, had become a threatening enigma, with its transmitter blinking at a frantic pace. The sharp, incessant countdown sound echoed through the space, hammering the team's nerves. Clara felt her heart in her throat, each beat a reminder of the urgency of the situation. How much time? Clara's voice was a tense whisper, barely audible over the high-pitched beep. Marco, with a furrowed brow and trembling hands, alternated his gaze between the transmitter and his tools. I don't know. There's no display, no indicator. Just this insane frequency, speeding up every second. Daniel, with his fingers flying over the keyboard, desperately tried to trace the signal. I'm trying to intercept the frequency, but it's like trying to catch smoke. It jumps between cell towers, crosses Wi-Fi networks, hides in data tunnels. It's a true digital maze. Sophia, with wide eyes and clenched fists, struggled to maintain her composure. Can we turn this thing off? Disconnect? Deactivate? Anything? Lucas, with a pale face and a choked voice, stared fixedly at the panel. What if it's not meant to hurt us? What if it's meant to make us do something? The email said, use wisely. What if it's a disguised order? Clara took a deep breath, trying to calm her nerves. We can't stand still. Marco, try to isolate the device. Cut any external connections. Isolate it from the panel. Marco nodded, his movements precise and swift. He traced the wires coming out of the transmitter, following them to the back of the panel. Suddenly, he stopped, tense expression. There's a direct data line to the main processor of the panel. If I cut it, the countdown might stop, but it might also activate whatever is programmed to happen. The silence in the room was deafening, broken only by the growing beep. We have to try, Clara said, her voice firm despite the fear. But do it carefully. As Marco worked, Daniel continued his desperate search for the signal. I got something. The signal is coming from a nearby cell tower, but it's being relayed by several repeaters, making it almost impossible to trace the origin. Suddenly, the beep intensified, and the transmitter began to blink at a frantic pace. Marco's hand slipped, and a spark flew as he cut the data line. The panel trembled, then went completely dark. A moment of tense silence followed, and then nothing. Chapter 6: The Phantom Signal and the Search in the Ducts. The oppressive silence in the room was only broken by the faint hum of computers. The LED panel, now a black rectangle, reflected the anxious faces of the team. The tension was palpable, a suffocating weight in the air. Had they stopped the countdown, or just delayed the inevitable? Did it work? Sophia asked, her voice trembling. Marco shook his head. I don't know. There's no way to tell. It could be running internally, waiting for the right moment. Daniel, with his eyes fixed on the screen, continued his search for the signal. I'm still trying to track it. It's like a ghost, appearing and disappearing in different locations, hiding in the shadows of the network. Clara approached the panel, running her hand over the smooth surface. We need to figure out what this thing is for. What was the goal? What was it supposed to do? Lucas, with a pale face, pointed to the email on the screen. The email said, "Use wisely. What if it's not about hurting us? What if it's about making us do something? Transmit something, maybe?" Transmit what? Sophia asked, her voice full of apprehension. I don't know, Lucas replied. But what if the panel is an antenna? What if it's programmed to send a message to everyone watching the event? Clara's eyes widened. The event. What if it's about sabotaging the event? Sending a message to the whole world? At that moment, Daniel's voice cut through the silence. I got something. The signal stabilized. It's coming from inside the building. Inside? Clara asked, her heart racing. Where? I'm triangulating now. It's coming from the ventilation system. The team armed themselves with flashlights and followed Daniel through the dark corridors of the building. The air was heavy with tension, the silence broken only by the sound of their footsteps. They followed Daniel's signal, which led them to a maintenance access panel near the building's central air conditioning unit. It's here, Daniel said, his voice tense. The signal is stronger here. Marco opened the panel, revealing a maze of ventilation ducts. Someone could easily move through here, he said. Clara nodded. We need to split up. Marco, you and Daniel go through the left duct. Sophia, you and Lucas go to the right. I'll go straight. Keep in touch. The team split up, disappearing into the dark, narrow tunnels. Clara crawled through the duct, the beam of her flashlight cutting through the darkness. The air was stale and dusty, and the silence was broken only by the faint hum of the building's machinery. Suddenly, she heard a faint sound ahead, a metallic click. She stopped, her heart racing. She turned off the flashlight and listened. The sound came again, closer this time. Someone was moving through the ducts. She moved silently, her steps muffled by the insulation of the duct. As she rounded a corner, she saw a figure silhouetted against a faint light. The figure was working on something, their back to her. Clara approached silently, her hand reaching for the small knife she kept in her pocket. As she got closer, she saw that the figure was attaching a small device to the duct wall. The device had a blinking light, similar to the transmitter on the panel. What are you doing? Clara asked, her voice sharp. The figure turned, revealing a masked face. Before Clara could react, the figure attacked, knocking her flashlight out of her hand. The duct plunged into darkness. Chapter 7: The Fight in the Ducts and the Revealed Identity. The fight in the duct was chaotic and disorienting. In the darkness, Clara and the masked figure grappled, their movements muffled by the duct walls. The air was thick with dust, and the only light came from the faint glow of the device the figure was installing. Clara managed to land a blow, but the figure retaliated, pushing her against the duct wall. She felt a sharp pain in her side but ignored it, focusing on the fight. She managed to grab the figure's arm, twisting it behind. The figure cried out in pain, and Clara tore off the mask. It was a familiar face. "You?" Clara asked, her voice full of disbelief. The figure, a junior technician at LuminaTech named Alex, looked at her with a mix of fear and defiance. "It wasn't supposed to come to this," Alex said. "I just wanted to prove my worth." "Prove your worth by sabotaging our event?" Clara asked, her voice stern. "What were you trying to do?" "I was supposed to install these devices," Alex said, his voice trembling. "They were meant to amplify the signal from the panel, create a feedback loop." "A feedback loop?" Clara asked. "What would that do?" "It would overload the building's systems," Alex said. "Cause a blackout. A massive blackout." At that moment, Marco's voice crackled over the communicators. "Clara, we found another device." Chapter 8. The Dark Connection and the Final Revelation. The tension in the duct was palpable. Clara, still stunned by Alex's revelation, heard Marco's voice crackle over the communicator, announcing the discovery of another device. "We need to stop this," Clara said urgently. "Marco, Daniel, Sophia, Lucas, everyone come here. We need to disarm these devices now." As the team gathered in the duct, Alex, handcuffed and visibly shaken, watched with apprehension. "You don't understand," he murmured. "It's not just a blackout. It's much more." "What do you mean?" Clara asked, her eyes fixed on Alex. "The devices are not just to overload the electrical system," Alex explained, his voice trembling. "They are also transmitters. They will amplify the signal from the panel, creating a wave of interference that will spread across the city." "Interference with what?" Daniel asked, his face pale. "Everything," Alex replied. "Communications, data networks, security systems, everything. The city will plunge into chaos." The team exchanged tense glances. The gravity of the situation was much greater than they had imagined. "Who hired you to do this?" Clara asked, her voice firm. Alex hesitated, then sighed. "A rival company, TechNexus. They want to sabotage the event, steal our clients, destroy our reputation." "Why did you agree to do this?" Sophia asked, her voice full of disappointment. "I needed the money," Alex replied, his eyes filled with remorse. "They promised me a large sum. I was desperate." Clara nodded, feeling a mix of anger and pity. "We need to disarm these devices," she said, "and we need to do it quickly." The team split up, each focused on disarming the devices scattered throughout the ducts. Marco, with his technical skill, managed to disable the transmitters, cutting the wires and removing the batteries. Daniel, with his knowledge of networks, isolated the panel's signal, preventing it from being amplified. Sophia and Lucas, with their attention to detail, found and deactivated the remaining devices, ensuring that none of them would be activated. With all the devices disarmed, the team gathered in the center of the duct, exhausted but relieved. "We did it," Clara said, a tired smile on her face. "We stopped them. But we still have to deal with TechNexus," Marco said seriously. "They won't give up easily." "We'll report them to the authorities," Clara said, "and we'll use this as an opportunity to strengthen our security, to show that we won't tolerate this kind of attack." The team agreed, feeling reinvigorated by Clara's determination. They had faced a dangerous threat, but had emerged stronger and more united. In the following days, LuminaTech took measures to reinforce its security, both physical and cyber. They reported TechNexus to the authorities, providing all the evidence they had collected. The rival company was investigated, fined, and forced to publicly retract. The LuminaTech event was a resounding success, with the LED panels shining brightly, displaying impressive images, and winning the admiration of everyone present. The team, now closer than ever, celebrated their victory, knowing they had overcome a challenge that had strengthened them and prepared them to face any obstacle in the future. Clara, in particular, felt a sense of accomplishment and pride. She had led her team through a dangerous crisis, demonstrating courage, intelligence, and determination. She knew that, with her team by her side, they could face any challenge and achieve any goal.